Okay, so here's something that's going to mess with your head. Right now, there's a 47-year-old version of you that exists in the future. And statistically speaking, that person, that future you, is probably as financially successful as you're ever going to get. According to the Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances, the average American hits their peak net worth at age 47, not 50, not 55, not at retirement, 47. And here's the really disturbing part. For most people, it's downhill from there. Their income plateaus, their expenses stay high, and they spend the next 20 years trying to hold on to what they built instead of actually growing. Now, here's the thing that nobody's talking about. This doesn't have to be you, because that age 47 peak, it's not biological. It's not inevitable. It's the result of specific financial decisions, or more accurately, financial non-decisions that compound over 25 years of your working life. And if you understand what causes that peak, you can hack the system and hit your financial maximum a full decade earlier. My name is Finlay, and I spend way too much time thinking about why most Americans peak financially at age 47 and how to peak at 37. If you're someone who's in your 20s or 30s and looking around wondering why you're not further ahead financially, or if you're approaching 40 and feeling like time is running out to build real wealth, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because here's what we're going to do today. We're going to break down exactly why age 47 is the statistical peak, what's happening in the decade before that determines everything, and, most importantly, the specific moves you need to make in your 30s to compress 25 years of wealth building into 15. This isn't theory. This is based on actual wealth accumulation data, behavioral economics research, and the mathematical reality of how money actually compounds in the real world. Section 1. The brutal math of age 47. Alright, so let's start with the data, because this is wild. The Federal Reserve tracks household wealth across different age groups, and the pattern is crystal clear. The median net worth for Americans aged 45 to 54 is approximately $247,000. For the 35 to 44 age group, about $135,000, and for people under 35, around $39,000. But here's where it gets really interesting. When you look at the trajectory, most of that wealth accumulation happens between ages 35 and 50. That's a 15-year window where the average American builds roughly $200,000 in net worth. After 50, the growth rate slows dramatically. Now, you might be thinking, well, yeah, Finlay, that makes sense. People earn more in their 40s, they've had more time to save, compound interest does its thing. And you'd be partially right, but that's not the whole story, because here's what most people don't realize. The reason Americans peak at 47 isn't because that's when they're making the most money or saving the most. It's because that's when three specific financial forces converge, and for most people, those forces work against them, not for them. Let me break down these three forces. Force number 1. Peak earning years meet peak expenses. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American's income peaks between ages 45 to 54, with median household income around $96,000. Sounds great, right? Except here's the problem. Your expenses peak at the exact same time. At age 47, statistically, you're likely dealing with a mortgage that's only halfway paid off. Kids who are 15 to 20 years old, the most expensive years, college is coming or already here, peak healthcare costs as your body starts requiring more maintenance, elderly parents who may need financial support, the accumulated lifestyle inflation from 25 years of treating yourself. A 2024 study from the Economic Policy Institute found that families with teenagers spend an average of $23,000 per year just on child-related expenses. Add in college costs, averaging $28,000 per year for in-state public universities, and you're looking at potentially $50,000 plus in annual expenses just for kids during your supposed peak earning years. So you're making more, but you're spending more. The delta, the actual amount you can save and invest, doesn't increase as much as you'd think. Force number 2. Career momentum stalls. Here's something career researchers have known for years, but nobody likes to talk about. For most people, your career velocity peaks in your late 30s and early 40s, not your late 40s. A comprehensive study published in the Journal of Labor Economics found that wage growth is steepest between ages 25 and 35, averaging 4 to 6% annual raises, and 35 to 45, 2 to 4% annual raises. But after 45, wage growth drops to less than 2% annually for most workers, barely keeping pace with inflation. Why? A few reasons. You've likely hit the ceiling in your current role. Switching jobs becomes harder. Age discrimination is real. Your skills may start becoming outdated if you haven't been aggressive about learning. Younger, cheaper workers are competing for the same positions. So at 47, you're probably making the most you've ever made, but your growth trajectory has flatlined. And this is the big one. This is the force that nobody calculates properly. Let's do some math. If you invest $10,000 at age 30 with an 8% annual return, by age 65, that money grows to approximately $147,000. That's 35 years of compounding. But if you invest that same $10,000 at age 47, by age 65, it only grows to about $46,000. That's 18 years of compounding. Same money, same return, but starting at 47 instead of 30 means you capture less than 1/3 of the growth. And this is why age 47 is the peak. It's not that people suddenly get smarter about money. It's that they finally have the income and life stability to start saving seriously, but they've already missed half the compounding window.
Section 2. The Hidden Decade, ages 30 to 40. Now, here's where this gets interesting. Because if you understand what's actually happening between ages 30 and 40, you can completely rewrite this story. Look, the reason most people don't peak until 47 is because they waste their 30s. And I don't mean waste in a moral sense. I mean waste in a mathematical sense. They make logical-seeming decisions that feel responsible, but are actually financially suboptimal. Here's what the typical 30-year-old does. Gets serious about their career, but doesn't aggressively increase income. They take the standard 3% raises instead of job hopping for 20 to 30% jumps. Buys a house because that's what you're supposed to do, without calculating the opportunity cost. Has kids and immediately increases lifestyle spending to match their new identity as parents. Keeps the same budget mentality they had in their 20s, just with bigger numbers. Contributes to their 401k, but not maximally, usually just enough to get the company match. Puts off serious investing because they're waiting for the right time or waiting to have more money. And here's the brutal truth. Every single one of these decisions costs them 10 years. Let me show you the math on just one of these. The job hopping gap. According to a 2023 ADP Research Institute study, employees who stay at the same company for more than 2 years earn 50% less over their lifetime compared to those who strategically change jobs. Let's say you're 30 years old making $60,000. If you stay at your current company and get 3% annual raises, by age 40, you're making $80,600. But if you change jobs every 2 to 3 years and negotiate 15 to 20% salary increases each time, which is completely achievable in most industries, by age 40, you could be making $140,000 plus. That's a $60,000 annual difference. Over 10 years, that's $600,000 plus in additional earnings, and that's before you factor in the investing power of that extra income. Now, you might be thinking, Finley, not everyone can just job hop and get 20% raises. And you're right, not everyone can. But here's the thing, most people never even try. They assume their current trajectory is fixed. They confuse loyalty with strategy, and they end up leaving literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table. Section 3. The 37-year-old peak strategy. All right, so here's the framework. If you want to peak at 37 instead of 47, you need to do 3 things in your 30s that most people don't do until their 40s, and you need to avoid 3 traps that derail most people. What you need to do. 1. Maximize income velocity. Ages 30 to 35. This is your aggressive income growth window. Your goal, double your income in 5 years. I know that sounds insane, but it's not. Here's how. Job hop strategically every 18 to 24 months. Aim for 15 to 20% increases each time. Develop one highly marketable skill that's in demand: data analysis, cloud architecture, AI, ML, whatever's hot in your industry. Start a side income stream, even if it's small. $500 to $1,000 per month by age 35 is a 10 to 15% income boost. Negotiate everything: your salary, your benefits, your equity, your flexibility. The math: if you start at $60,000 at age 30 and execute this strategy, you should be at $120,000 plus by age 35. That's completely achievable in most white-collar industries. 2. Invest asymmetrically, ages 30 to 37. Here's what most people get wrong. They think they should invest a consistent percentage of their income throughout their career. Like, I'll save 15% of every paycheck forever. That's fine, but it's not optimal. The optimal strategy is to invest asymmetrically, meaning you invest a disproportionately large amount early when the compounding window is longest. Here's the math. Let's say over your career you're able to invest $500,000. Scenario A, the normal way, you invest $10,000 per year from age 30 to 65, 35 years. With 8% returns, you end up with approximately $1.86 million. Scenario B, the asymmetric way, you invest $25,000 per year from age 30 to 37, 7 years, then $7,000 per year from 37 to 65, 28 years. Same total invested, $500,000, but you end up with approximately $2.34 million. That's almost $500,000 more just by front-loading your investments. Why does this work? Because that early money compounds for longer. The $25,000 you invest at age 30 has 35 years to grow. The $7,000 you invest at age 50 only has 15 years. 3. Build systems, not budgets, ages 35 to 37. Look, here's the thing about budgets. They don't work long-term for most people because they require constant willpower and decision-making. What works is systems, automated, thoughtless financial structures that make the right decisions for you. By age 35, you should have automatic 401k contributions at the maximum, $23,000 per year as of 2024. Automatic Roth IRA contributions, $7,000 per year. Automatic transfers to a taxable brokerage account, whatever you can afford. Automatic bill payments, automatic savings for specific goals. The goal is to reach a point where you never actually see the money you're supposed to save and invest. It disappears before you can spend it. Research from behavioral economists shows that people who automate their finances save 2 to 3 times more than people who manually budget, simply because there's no decision fatigue. What you need to avoid: trap number 1, the house money trap, ages 30 to 35. Look, I'm not anti-home ownership, but buying a house in your early 30s is one of the biggest wealth delay tactics in America. Here's why. When you buy a house at 32, you're typically putting 20% down, $60,000 to $80,000 in most markets, taking on a 30-year mortgage, committing to property taxes, maintenance, insurance, typically 1 to 3% of home value annually, and losing liquidity and flexibility. That down payment, that's $60,000 to $80,000, if invested at age 32 with 8% returns, becomes $660,000 to $880,000 by age 67. Now, real estate does appreciate, but unless you're in a top-tier market, residential real estate typically appreciates at 3 to 4% annually, which barely beats inflation. The wealth optimal move: rent cheap in your early 30s, max out your investments, then buy a house at 37 to 40 when you have enough invested that your portfolio is generating passive income to offset the carrying costs.
Trap number 2, the lifestyle inflation trap, ages 32 to 37. This is the silent killer. You get a raise, you upgrade your life. New apartment, nicer car, better restaurants, more subscriptions, fancier vacations, and it feels totally reasonable because you're making more money. But here's the math that destroys people. If you make $60,000 at age 30 and you're saving $9,000 per year, 15%, That's great. But if you get a raise to $90,000 by age 35 and you still only save $13,500, 15%, you've increased your savings by $4,500, but your lifestyle spending increased by $25,500. The wealth optimal move: every time you get a raise, increase your savings by 50% of the raise and allow your lifestyle to inflate by the other 50%. So if you get a $30,000 raise, you increase savings by $15,000 to $24,000 per year and lifestyle by $15,000. This way, you're still improving your quality of life, but you're capturing the majority of income growth for wealth building. Trap number 3, the I'll start later trap. Ages 30 to 37. This one's psychological. People in their early 30s think they have time. They think, I'll get serious about investing when I'm 40 and making more money. But here's the thing. Time is the most valuable asset you have in your 30s. Every year you wait, you're not just losing 1 year of returns, you're losing 35 years of compounding on that money. A dollar invested at age 30 is worth $14.79 by age 65 at 8% returns. A dollar invested at age 40 is worth $6.85 by age 65. Every year you delay starting is cutting the ultimate value of your money in half, roughly every decade. The wealth optimal move: start immediately. Even if it's small, $200 per month starting at age 30 is better than $500 per month starting at age 35. Section 4. The psychological edge. Now look, here's the thing nobody talks about. The real difference between people who peak at 37 and people who peak at 47 isn't just tactics, it's psychology. Because executing this strategy requires you to do things that feel uncomfortable and socially weird in your 30s. You're renting while your friends are buying houses. You're driving a normal car while your peers are upgrading to luxury vehicles. You're saying no to expensive social events and vacations. You're obsessed with numbers and optimization while others are living their lives. And people will judge you for it. They'll think you're cheap or risk-averse or not enjoying your life. But here's what happens at age 37. You have $400,000 to $500,000 net worth, while your peers have $150,000. You have income streams and optionality. They have golden handcuffs and financial stress. You can take career risks, start businesses, work less, or retire early. They're stuck on the treadmill, and suddenly all those weird decisions you made in your 30s don't look weird anymore. They look genius. There's a concept in psychology called temporal discounting, the tendency to value immediate rewards over future rewards, and humans are terrible at it. We consistently undervalue our future selves, but the people who win financially, they're the ones who can clearly visualize their 37-year-old self and make decisions in service of that person, even when it means short-term sacrifice. A study from Stanford's marshmallow experiment and its long-term follow-ups showed that people who can delay gratification don't just end up wealthier, they end up healthier, happier, and more successful across almost every life dimension. This isn't about deprivation. It's about consciously choosing which version of your future you want to create. Section 5. The inflection point. Here's where this all comes together. At some point between ages 35 and 37, if you've been executing this strategy, you hit what I call the inflection point. This is the moment when your investment returns start generating more wealth than your active income. Let me show you what this looks like. Let's say you're 36 years old. You've been aggressively saving and investing for 6 years. You have $300,000 invested. At 8% annual returns, that portfolio generates $24,000 per year in growth. Meanwhile, if you're making $100,000 and saving 30%,
$30,000, you're only adding $30,000 in new money. Your money is doing almost as much work as you are. By age 40, if you have $500,000 invested, that portfolio is generating $40,000 per year. If you're still saving $30,000, your portfolio growth exceeds your active contributions. This is the inflection point. This is when you've effectively peaked in the sense that your financial trajectory is now locked in. Barring catastrophe, you're going to be wealthy. And the psychological shift this creates is massive. You stop feeling desperate about money. You stop feeling like you're behind. You start making career and life decisions from a position of abundance rather than scarcity. This is what peaking at 37 actually means. Not that you stop growing wealth, but that you've built enough momentum that wealth accumulation becomes inevitable and largely passive. Meanwhile, the person who waited until their 40s to get serious, they're just starting this process at age 45. By age 50, they might have $200,000 to $250,000 saved. They're 10 years behind you, and because of compounding, they'll never catch up. So, here's the bottom line. Age 47 is not a biological destiny. It's the result of 17 years of specific financial behaviors, most of them suboptimal. But if you're in your 20s or early 30s right now, you have the opportunity to completely rewrite that script. Peak at 37 instead. Build your wealth a decade faster and spend your 40s and 50s living from a position of financial strength instead of financial stress. So, it requires aggressive income growth in your early 30s, asymmetric investing that front-loads your contributions, systems that automate good decisions, and avoiding the three big traps: houses too early, lifestyle inflation, and delay. And it requires the psychological strength to look different from your peers for a few years so you can live different from them for the rest of your life. But if you do this, if you execute this strategy, by age 37, you'll have what most Americans don't achieve until 47. And the decade you gain, that's a decade of optionality, freedom, and peace of mind that you can never get back. So, ask yourself, what would your 37-year-old self want you to do today? If this video helped shift your thinking about wealth-building timelines, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below, and tell me, how old are you right now, and what's one move you're going to make this month to accelerate your financial peak? And if you want to see the actual investment strategy I'd use to execute this plan, check out my video on Remember, you don't have more time than you think, you have less. But that's actually good news, because urgency creates action. I'll see you in the next one.